My name is Shanth Enjeti, and welcome to the third episode of Comics' Gatecrashers. You are watching Shanth Enjeti Art. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that is relevant to the work I'm making and relevant to something I think is missing in comics. But before we do talk about it, I'd like to remind everybody that my comic book, Nosfero, the Crypt is funding currently right now on Indiegogo. We've got 290 backers. We're almost to 19K on that campaign. I would appreciate your support if you like monsters, Lovecraftian horror, adventure stories, Conan the Barbarian, The Witcher, mystical, magical heroism with really cool creature designs, and a very, very cool origin story. Do not miss out on the first issue of Nosfero, the Crypt It's going to be a beautiful, square-bound, glossy-covered book. This is my third Indiegogo campaign, and I would appreciate your support, and I'm looking forward to getting it out there for all of you guys to enjoy. So check it out. The link is in the description. So today I wanted to talk about something that came up in one of my recent live streams with a friend of mine, Phil Diaz of Zaid Comics. We were having a chat about artists we like, things we admire, and our conversation got me thinking about a word that I think is really important, at least in my opinion, for making great, dynamic, and exciting comic books for the audience, the young audience, and in many instances the older audience who reads and collects comic books. And it's a word that is ideally suited for independence, and that word is GNARLY. Now that might seem like a dated 80s term. I remember the first time I heard that term, I think I was 11 years old, and a buddy of mine was pronouncing it GNARLY. Those were the days. When it comes to doing work, and when it comes to looking at things that kids find cool, that word, whether it's Spawn, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Madballs, which were designed by artist James Groman, there's aspects of that term, gnarly, cool, creepy, eerie, all of those things we love, that is very appealing to young teenagers and also, I think, older fans too. People who love horror and people who love monsters and creatures. I think I could accurately describe some of the monsters and creatures that we see in video games and everywhere else. So the reason why I was thinking about this is because when I'm working on my book here, which you can see, Nosfero the Crypt one of the biggest things about it as I work on it is thinking as an independent creator. The kind of creatures I'm allowed to make, the kinds of scenes I'm allowed to illustrate, and making these really interesting creatures and visuals that people can enjoy that don't look like they were designed for 5 and 6 year olds or 7 or 8 year olds, but designed for teenagers all the way up to adults. The kinds of things that you would see when you would watch the cantina scene in Star Wars where somebody gets their arm lopped off, where there are all these gnarly creatures that are inside of the cantina. The kind of things that you saw in excellent toy designs, the kinds of things that were personified in characters like Ratfink, the kinds of things that you saw on the Rob Roscott skateboard with the giant face on it, the warts, the blood, all of that kind of stuff. You know, it got me thinking about one artist that Phil and I both are fans of, and that I was showing some of his artwork. And that artist that I want to make sure I show you guys in case any of you people have not heard of them. They are an incredible artist, and they're, someone whose work I think of as I'm creating the stuff that I'm creating right now. And that artist is Simon Bisley. So when people ask me, what do I mean when I'm talking about this term? This stuff is both in the 80s slang term, gnarly, and also in terms of its subject matter, gnarly. Look at it. It's sexy, it's explosive, it's powerful, it's creepy, it's all of these really great qualities. And interestingly enough, it's not the sort of staid pap that people associate right now with the kind of lima bean anatomied illustrations that you see in modern day comics. So I wanted to go through this book. This book is fabulously expensive, and I got a pretty worn out copy of it, but no pun intended, it's an absolutely fantastic work with beautiful paintings, really great sense of depth. If you have never seen Simon Bisley's work before, feast your eyes on a master at work. And so I started thinking about, look at the anatomy, look at the veins. Is the anatomy perfect? Is the fabric perfect in terms of realism? No. But it has this creepy kind of intensity and this balls, for lack of a better way of saying it, that makes it kinetic, that makes it speak to us. And I'm going to move my light here just so you guys can see it. There we go. It's got this really great kinetic quality, this really great artistry to it. Look at the green in the mountains. Again, we were just talking previously about the work of Richard Corbin. I have no doubt that Richard Corbin was an influence in terms of the way the media is being handled, as was Frank Frazetta. But this is the kind of stuff that has an edge to it, that has a sense of play to it. And this is precisely what I think is missing right now in modern comic books. He's doing this stuff with paint and mixed media in various, instances, and everything in this book has got an element to it that is absolutely fantastic. Look at this Frankenstein. Look at the detail. Look at the stitching on it. This is awesome work, and this is what I would describe as this gnarly, funky, cool work that doesn't look like it was designed for kids. It doesn't look like something that it doesn't look like something that you would feel was uncool to be walking around with. And the idea of making stuff that doesn't look like it was belt sanded, designs that don't look like they could easily have been made, from balloon animals, is something that we're missing. Look at the way that he handles illustrations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of Casey Jones. Look at the way he handles his illustrations of the creatures that he does. Here's another Ninja Turtles piece. Ninja Turtles, which we talked about previously, was incredibly gnarly. It takes place in the sewers. You have all these creatures with these stumpy hands, and they're just these really bizarre, stocky creatures. Look at this stuff. This is the definition of creating work with some kind of energy to it, some kind of intensity to it. And that's what I think people are looking for in their comic book work. This is a page from his book Slain, and it's beautiful, and you can just get a sense of, look at the anatomy on these figures. This is what's missing. Everything is too perfect, too clean, too crisp, and it doesn't have a soul. Here's some more work from Slain. Just take a look at that elk. Take a look at the heads on the spikes right there on that armor. This is the kind of stuff that I think is missing in modern day comics. And here's some more looks at Slain. It doesn't mean you can't tell all kinds of different stories when it comes to indie comics. But if someone were asking me, what do I think is the reason for the discrepancy in sales between something like manga as a thriving industry and American comics, I would say that most people are reading manga because manga will tackle anything. It will have an edge on it. And there's a huge history of American comic books doing the same. They just haven't done them in a very long time in a bold, mainstream sense. And again, look at the texture. Look at how this face on this board looks like gnarled wood. Look at how everything in this has a certain kind of raw intensity. It doesn't look like it was belt sanded to death, and it's not missing its character. So when we sit down to create work, one of the things I think is really important for us to be thinking about is, if we're going to do independent comics, we should at the very least consider the fact that they are independent and they don't have to be polished within an inch of their life. They can have this kind of beautiful, elegant, textural quality to them and this kind of quirky rawness that I feel like we're missing right now. And if you haven't seen it yet, Phil Diaz's book Lost Pages had a Simon Bisley cover on it, and it's well worth a look. Here's some stuff from Heavy Metal that was designed by Simon Bisley, but I would encourage all of you guys who are fans. Here's the Judge Dredd stuff right here by Simon Bisley, some of the covers. Look at this, guys. It doesn't mean that you can't do crazy, whimsical stuff. It just means you don't have to be committed to having everything be so polished that it's got no soul left in it. Don't be afraid to have a character with a twisted face bite his lip and draw blood. Don't be afraid to have some raw, scribbly texture in the background in your work. Don't be afraid to have characters whose anatomy looks like it's twisted flesh that's been crammed into boots. That's the thing that makes this stuff so cool. I remember buying all of these different books when I was a kid in the 80s, and the thing that was cool about them is they weren't stuff that my parents were going to go out and pick up for me and say, oh, look, this is all completely quaint and safe and you're going to enjoy it. Nah, they were things like this. They were things that had some guts to them, both literally and figuratively. So when you're sitting down and you're thinking about, what is it that I want to do with my work? What's something I can put into my work? What do people want to see? What might we explore that people aren't seeing a lot of? I would say it's this. That's what gets me excited about so many of the books that I'm buying and backing in Comicsgate. That's what makes ideas... Let's try that again.
Do I look bothered?
That's what makes fun indie ideas so cool and so interesting. It's their ability to go places that the mainstream cannot and will not go. So do yourself a solid. Check out Simon Bisley's work, and the next time you're breaking open your sketchbook, or the next time you're looking to back books, and I would encourage you guys to back Nosfero the Crypt Walker. If you haven't yet, it's going to have its fair share of gnarly creatures and really cool imagery and some fun illustrated work that's very much in the same vein as the stuff that... God dang it.
Do I look bothered?
and it's going to have some stuff that's very much in the same vein as this work that I've been showing you as a part of the series, Comics as Gatecrashers. So like and subscribe. Please share this video. Please get it out there. And remember, have some fun. Keep it gnarly. Make cool things that you couldn't make anywhere else. And let's keep this indie comic scene that's blossoming right now happening in Comicsgate and everywhere else. Again, this is Shanth and Jetty, and this is Shanth and Jetty Art. This is artwork from my book, Nosfero, the Crypt Walker, which is funding right now on Indiegogo. I would love your support. Your support would mean the world to us. We are painting a very cool book about creatures, and you can watch it on this YouTube channel being created. And that is probably by far the most fun part of being a part of Comicsgate and making books in that world. So take care, everybody. Love to see you come in and comment on the streams. Have a great day. Stay gold and peace. Nosfero the Crypt Walker Volume 1 is my third Indiegogo campaign and will be a fully painted and lavishly illustrated pulp adventure story. Sensational, vivid, and uncompromisingly aspirational storytelling with an edge. Don't miss your chance to back Nosfero the Crypt Walker Volume 1. Available for a limited time only on Indiegogo.